All right, welcome everyone. Thank you for putting your cameras on so we can see you. If you have a chance, and if you don't mind, if you can rename yourselves and indicate if there is a school that you are planning on attending in the fall, or a school that you're still kind of thinking about, that would help us out tremendously as we kind of go through some things. If you don't want to do that, that's fine as well. So I'm Dina Gentili, and I'm the director of college events and programming. And we just got off the field with Impact younger players, explaining the college pathway to them. There's a lot of energy. And so for us to be here with you now really kind of allows us to come full circle, since you're the group that's going to be heading off to college the soonest for our Impact group. So we are going to talk today about, and we have some amazing guests to speak to you, kind of looking at your rookie year, what to expect as a first year player, and gaining the experience from a college coach's perspective, a college player perspective, and even from a mindset of a professional soccer player as well. So all of those things combined really will aid each of you as you are thinking and have some questions just about what it's like to play college ball, because when you're going through the recruiting process, there's a lot of information that you have to sort through, and now you're hearing it from our impact friendly crew, which I think will really alleviate a lot of questions that you might have. So before I go any further, I just want to introduce a couple people who are on the call. And again, if you guys can show your faces, that would really help our guest speakers. We're a smaller group tonight, but we have Mike Kersker, who is the president of our Impact League. And he's been really a great force to help with every event that we've had. And he has a vision for this league, and he recruited me and to come on, and it was probably one of the best decisions of my life. I'm very excited about all of the elements that we're adding to your college journey. We also have Lauren Jenkins, who's also known as Chico, who I had the pleasure of interacting with today on the field. And she is really just a really nice person, also including all of her expertise in soccer that I will let her share as well. And then we have Katie Schoepfer, who is here, and she is someone who's been gracious enough to actually speak to a lot of my youth players in the past. And it's really a pleasure to have her here. Her background is immense. The way I met Shep was through the Boston Breakers as a professional player. She has a storied history playing at Penn State. She's coached at the collegiate ranks, and she's coaching at the club level as well. And then you can add your most recent position as well, Shep, when you begin to engage with us. That would be great. But Chico, I wanted to start with you, if that's okay. Can you just share a little bit more about your background?
Sure. Thanks everyone for hopping on tonight. So you can call me Chico as well. I played college soccer at Boston University, and then played actually a couple years afterwards with the Aztecs in the Women's League for a few years. And yeah, it was really fun. And then, started coaching club. I actually also have been coaching with the ODP program in the state for a while, probably a little more than 10 years now. I have a background in strength and conditioning. I worked with college athletes as well with that, and now helping out within our club as well. And then, coached at the D3 level at Lesley University for 5 years, and now helping out, like I said, in this area. And I also coach with a local prep school in the area as a varsity soccer coach and strength and conditioning coach.
Great, thank you so much. And the reason why I wanted her to really share a little bit more of her background is she's a resource for me and for you as well. So thanks for joining us tonight. Shep, I would love for you to give us a little bit more of your background, and then if you can share with us in terms of playing the game, how many years have you been actively involved in the game, and also what are some of your fondest memories?
Yeah, so thanks for having me, first of all. Never miss an opportunity to talk about myself, so I'm happy to be here. But I grew up in Connecticut, played club soccer my whole life, played other sports too. I played basketball through high school. Ended up going to Penn State, was an All-American there. Then I got drafted to play in the WPS for New Jersey Sky Blue, got cut after one season, and then made my way to the Boston Breakers. And I played for the Breakers for 7 years. I captained the team the last 2 years that I was there. Then, as I was kind of doing all that, I was always coaching, always said yes to coaching opportunities. I quickly found out that was the route I wanted to go when I was done playing. And now I've been retired, I think, for 5 years. Retired for 5 years and in the coaching game. And I've been fortunate enough to get the opportunity to coach with our youth national team. So I'm the assistant coach for the U17 youth national team, and I was the head coach for the U16 youth national team right before we went into lockdown. I took a team over to England for a tournament. So now getting into the full-time coaching world, getting to use my experience as a player at a D1 level, as a pro player, and then now getting to work with some of the highest levels, I think it's just a really cool transition for me to see what the kids that are super committed to wanting to be great are like and what they're doing.
Yeah, and you use the word transition because really the youth players right now, the players who are on this call, are transitioning from being a girl player to really a woman in the ranks. So can you kind of describe kind of that transformation and that maturity that goes with that transition to college?
Yeah, completely. Yeah, I can't agree more. Like when you go into college, you're an 18-year-old kid that thinks you have it all figured out. And after your 4 years, you're getting a full-time job, could be getting a full-time salary. Could buy a house, you can have a family and a life. And it's those 4 years, like they were some of the most impactful years that I had as a player. I went into college thinking I knew everything, thinking that I was great. I was great on my high school team and I was my best player on my club team and I could score all these goals and do all these things. And all of a sudden I had coaches who were challenging me in other ways and pushing me to be better. And it's a hard emotional journey sometimes because you don't know what a coach sees that you don't, and you have to kind of sort through that. But you come out of it being a 21-year-old, 22-year-old that's had a lot of experience of navigating both positive and negative emotions and how to deal with um, coaches and teammates and players. And it's a lot of coming of age because you're not with your parents. You don't get to go home and have like talk to mom and dad about how they can fix it for you. You go back to a dorm room with your roommate who might be the one who took your spot, and you have to be able to navigate those relationships. So I think in those 4 years in college, it's just so impactful for how you grow up, and then you graduate and you're off into the world and you can do whatever you want and get whatever job you want. And it's just such a cool growing journey of those 4 years.
So you mentioned when you were talking about the youth national teams, like that willingness to commit, and you're seeing that at that level. Can you just kind of highlight what does it really mean to fully commit?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really buying into it in all aspects of your life, right? Like at soccer practice, I think the number one thing, especially with the national team that we look for, is that you're coachable. And by coachable, I mean, how many times does it take for me to give you an instruction that you're immediately able to then put it into your game? I think it's the same thing with college when I was coaching college players, that it's, if I have to tell you the same thing over and over and over and over again, and you're not understanding it, then either you can't do it or you're not understanding it and you're not asking for help. And so I think that for being able to commit is being coachable, but then it's also managing the other aspects of your life. Are you hydrating? Are you seeing the trainer when you're injured? Are you being proactive about recovery? Are you eating the right foods at mealtime? Are you getting to bed on time? All of those things is really fully committing. I think it's easy to say, but then especially in college when you're trying to manage, you have a test coming up, but you also have a big game the next day. Which one are you going to sleep? Are you going to study? How are you managing your time? But fully committing is really time management and committing in all aspects of your life to me.
And Chico, I'm going to ask you a question in a second, but if you do have a question while you're listening, you can put it in the chat so you don't forget it. I could ask it for you if you don't want to ask it. So as things come up, please feel free to add it. And the thing is sometimes when you're listening to this and you're like, oh, I have to decide between taking a nap or studying. That's the reality of being a college student athlete, is that you will make choices, and your roommate might be on your team or might not be on your team, and they might not be making the same choices. So that's also coming of age and becoming your own person. So Chico, in terms of when you first arrive on a college campus, and it's preseason and it's really hot and you're doing double sessions, sometimes triple sessions. Now that because of the strength and conditioning piece, like what advice would you give to those players who are stepping on the field nervous, trying to earn a spot, and then they have to eat in the dining hall? Like what's some advice you can give to prepare?
Yeah, I think usually colleges will give a packet for the summertime to work out at home. And I would say making sure that you take the time to do it. You don't want to use your preseason as the time to get in shape. So a lot of the time I would see freshmen, most of the majority of the class would come in and they would have done most of the packet, or at least try to do as much of the packet as they can. And usually the packets that come home, where we have so much resources around us now, where we can go to maybe a gym that you're going to be using over the summer. Maybe it's a type of workout that you could be able to do on a field and use the trainers from school to be able to touch base with throughout the summertime, but really using that summer prep to really get ready for the season. I do think, just similarly when we, study for a test, you're going to feel more prepared if you do the work beforehand before you get to preseason. Just like you would study before you get to the test, you wouldn't show up to a test without studying, hopefully. So that same mentality of prepping yourself for preseason and season, and the same thing for you would in the classroom, those really go hand in hand. And I think when you think about when you want to peak in the season, so a lot of college seasons you could go deep into November and even December, depending on your how successful the season goes. So you want to be peaking at that right time. And if you wait too long over the summer to do the workouts to prepare yourself, you might be finding that you're peaking, too late in the season or after season, or even if you, kind of thinking of your summer as kind of like a periodization of time where, you'd be able to maybe take that time from finishing off your club season to recover a little bit. And then you kind of go back at it, 6 to 8 weeks at least before you're supposed to report to your campus.
Right. And it's so exciting when you get that email with the summer workout packet, because you're like, you flip through it and you're all going to do that. And you're like, oh my gosh, I have all this work to do. And that's what it is. It's putting in the time and committing yourself, to get that spot and to earn that spot. So Shep, we had on someone from Penn State, Sean Latta, who was on the women's soccer team before it was a varsity sport. And so she was a trailblazer to make that happen. So it's interesting to have you here now, kind of as a legacy of Penn State. And we talk about legacy building as a core value for impact. So can you let us know, like, what does the word legacy mean to you? And you can add in also, what does success mean to you?
Yeah, I mean, it's it's interesting because I think it's changed for me a lot over the years. I think when I was first going into college, success for me meant being number one, winning, being the starter, scoring all the goals, being the superstar. And I think as I got older, especially I had a really rough rookie season my first year professionally, and it just, me and the coach didn't connect. We didn't get along. And I really learned, for me, success, I had to stop relying on outside sources to define my success. And I had to start being more internally satisfied with my performance, because I was not getting any playing time or anything like that. So as in college, I was a little bit more focused on, did I score a goal? Did I start and play? How many minutes did I play? All that kind of stuff. And then as I got older into the pro world, it was more, okay, did I give everything I had at practice? Did I get my teammate better today? Did I do everything I could possibly do in my control to set myself up for success? And if I did, and I could say I did that, then to me, at the end of the day, the playing part, like, I knew I was ready if they called on me. And if they didn't, then I said, okay, great, I'll do it again next week, and I'll do whatever role I needed to do. As far as a legacy to me, I think, Penn State's really big on, you play for those who came before you, and you set the standard for everyone who's going to come after you and all that kind of stuff. But for me, a legacy is is really asking yourself, like, are you going to be the kid that the coaches are going to miss at the end of the year and they really don't want you to graduate? Or are you going to be the kid that coaches are like, yes, thank God they're getting out of here, like we're excited to get them to go? Because it's kind of the reality is you spend so much time together as a college athlete with your coaches and with your teammates that, like, to me, I think you want to be known as the kid that's like, oh, I wish she had another year of eligibility. I wish she could stick around another year. That was a fun kid to coach. Not, okay, great, next one, we recruited her, she's gone. Like, what can we do with her money? Because that's kind of the business side of it, right? Is they're looking at how much money you're on. Are you on a scholarship? Are you not on a scholarship? What spot are you taking? Are you a pain in the butt? Are you always complaining about stuff? Are you always in the office complaining to them? And to me, a legacy is like, I want coaches or I want my teammates to just really have loved playing with me or coaching me or being around me. And then the success kind of comes from that.
That's great. I mean, I would think anybody around you would say all positive things, because you really did make an impact, when you were a guest speaker at my camp. And so I've only heard just the best about you. And I think that's something that we talk about a lot to our impact players is like, what do you want people to say about you when you're not in the room? And those are things that we can control. And we talked about that today with our younger players as well. Chico, you played at BU, so there's a lot of history at BU, and you're a legacy of a lot of great coaches, or Nancy Feldman, who came from there. And I'm sure legacy was something that was discussed quite often. Can you add your insight on what legacy means to you?
Yeah, I mean, I think everything Chef said was awesome. I think we had a lot of traditions that you came into that you kind of absorbed as a freshman and then kind of took on, and each year you had something to look forward to as well. And then really kind of the culture, I think, is something that was really big at our school in terms of like having between the workouts, the prep for things, making sure you can time manage, and a lot of those things in terms of what I like to say Nancy, who's been there for, I think she's on year 27 now, packing our bag with lots of tools to be able to use later on. And I think in terms of our legacy, it's really, we were, always, being a good teammate, being a good, respectful to, back to the coaching staff, and, knowing that the hard work that you put in, like there's going to be days like Shep said, where like, you might not be able to, you'd be putting in the best workout that you thought you could do, but you might still not get that starting spot. But knowing that hard work and what you put in is, it might add up, the small things that you might do might add up to maybe that bigger goal that you have. And, I would say that having, some of those traditions that you like got to look forward to and then help create for the players below who are coming in. I mean, we have a lot of alumni relationships now, which it's like really great to be able to go and you have the younger players look up to us even for jobs and connections, and, some of that within, after they graduate as well. So I think there's a lot of things that, each school has their own unique culture too, and their own unique traditions that those legacies that I think leaving behind have extended. And even if the coach might leave, because that might happen, hopefully that stays within the players and the team that you'll be able to play with for those 4 years.
Great, thank you. We do have a question from Emma. Can you share some strategies of balancing academics and athletics? She's going to be playing soccer and track next year at the D3 level. And congratulations, Emma, for that.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I actually always got better grades during the fall because it was so structured that I had to be super careful about my time. Like I knew, like when it's a travel weekend, that you had to get your homework and everything turned in. But on a Thursday, because Friday we're traveling and I didn't want to have to think about games. I think in spring season, I had a little too much time on my hands we always had morning practice and no games on the weekend. So I always could say like, oh, I'll get it done later. But for me, the structure was so big. And for me, even now, it's always just pre-planning calendars and giving myself time to do things. And look, you have to kind of accept that you can't be everything to everyone. So sometimes your friends are going to want to go out to a party and you have a big test coming up and you have to be able to be confident to say, look, my grades matter to me and I don't want to go, or I can't go, or I'm going to go to the library first, or whatever it is, find those compromises to give yourself some structure and give yourself figure out what really matters the most to you. And if it's important to you, you'll make time for it. It's not impossible. There's people who've done it before you, so it's definitely manageable, but it just takes work to stay on track.
Chico, did you want to add to that?
Yeah, I think the college like classroom schedule is a little bit different than what you might be used to in the high school. 8:30 to 2:30 time, and so there is that little bit of transition time when you start. You hopefully, if you're going to be playing a sport like like a fall soccer season, you'll have some time to adjust to like the campus and your dorm, and then school starts like after usually like around Labor Day time, and so then you'll start to get that part figured out a little bit once you kind of get into that mix of like, okay, soccer practice is always going to be at this time now. Once season starts, we're no longer doing doubles anymore or whatever. And then similarly, you guys have probably had a pretty structured high school time where you've had, that, you only have practice from this time. So your homework has to be done chunked into this time. But like once you start traveling for games, you might now have to adjust how you're studying and prepping yourself a little bit because you have a game that you're traveling, further away. So that study time you might normally have, you might have to do the day before or, 2 days before, just so that you can kind of feel like you're not stressed out cramming it in. Because when you think about the whole picture, balancing your plate of rest and sleep and nutrition is also part of those puzzle pieces along with the soccer and academics.
And there, and I do want to point out one thing. When you're on campus for preseason as a fall athlete, it's great because really no one else is there. It's just the fall athletes who are going through training sessions. So you have really a chance to kind of walk your schedule also academically to make sure you know where your classes are. You can time it from your dorm. So, do you have enough time to have breakfast? Do you have enough time to have lunch? So it's actually it serves to really relax you as a first year student also to be on campus early. And then you have, a group of people that you already know, but you also have to realize you could be 17, 18, and you're competing against 21, 22-year-olds. And, now with the pandemic, there's going to be 23, 24-year-olds who are going to be part of that team. So there is an age gap, and that's where decision-making is very important as a young person who's the first time on campus. So I was just wondering if both of you can touch upon making your own decisions, and maybe, anybody here can share this, even the players too, when you're making decisions, or did you have was there a time where you did make a wrong choice, or you did have an issue in terms of peer pressure that you can share with us? Or if you saw it on some of the teams that you were part of.
Yeah, I mean, I can go. For me, again, I think as I've gotten older, I've gotten better at things. Penn State is a pretty big school, and I guess as a state school, it's pretty much known as a party school. My guess would be for everybody else, but yeah, I think I probably wasn't as great at making the correct decision all the time. When I was an athlete, I wish I could go back, and I think if I did, I would really value more the resources that I had at my disposal to be able to make myself better, because I didn't really realize what I had until I didn't have it anymore. As a pro player, especially at the time I was a pro player, we didn't have like a gym that you could just go to and work out. You didn't have a nutritionist you could talk to. We didn't have all these things. So that now I wish I could go back as a college athlete and say, you know what? No, I don't want to go out on Sunday night. I want to make sure I'm recovering. So I really have a recovery day Monday. So Tuesday when we have training, I could get after it. I actually want to work hard and pass my fitness tests instead of mailing it in, because I know that I'm going to play no matter what. Like I wish I could go back and make myself even better, because I was an All-American as kind of giving 75% of what I probably should. So if I could have go back and give 100% of what I should have, who knows where I could have been or what I could have done. So I think looking back, don't take for granted what you have and the resources you have while you have it. So make the right decision when you can. And of course you're going to go have fun and you're going to enjoy your college life, but just make sure that there's that balance too, of once in a while you have to make that right decision and make the hard decision too.
Right. Chico, did you want to add to that?
Yeah, I think too, like, I was injured for a lot of my career in college. And so I think that adds another layer of like, well, maybe I could go out tonight, but yet my teammates can't. And so I think, making those decisions can be hard, but also it's, trying to understand that like maybe if you're injured and you didn't go out, maybe you could recover faster too to be able to get back on the field, and kind of thinking of it a little bit more like that. I'm sure, Shep, you had the same thing. We had a certain GPA that we had to keep if we wanted to not be like in study hall. And so that was something that was kind of part of our culture too, of like making sure that we got our grades up well enough so that we, maybe we didn't want to go to study hall, we could make sure that we could be responsible. And so that's kind of goes back to like the time management piece, but also I think, sacrifices that you might have to make to be able to then, on the night that you wanted to go out with some friends, whatever that means, you can, make sure you check the boxes of what you did with your homework and, prepping for for your training so that you're doing things the right, that type of thing where, it's decisions are hard and you have to kind of think of what it is in the big picture of what you're trying to get out of your experience. And sometimes those are a harder decision to do.
Yeah, it's you're navigating everything when you're out there. You're navigating decisions you make on the field. You're navigating, who you're sitting with at the dining hall. You're navigating your roommate situation. There's a lot of decisions that are made that your freshman year that are definitely more intense. But as you go through sophomore, junior, senior year, it's definitely easier in terms of making those social decisions because you went through it already. So anything that you've went through, obviously it becomes a little bit more programmed, and you understand the repercussions of your decisions also. Freshmen make mistakes all of the time. And it's not like you have a free pass to make mistakes, but we certainly know when you're on a college campus that you need a little bit more guidance. But as soccer players coming into preseason too, there's a short period of time to prep for your first game or even your first scrimmage. So coming in shape matters, and just taking the advice that you were given in terms of putting in 100%, so you don't regret it. You know what it's like when you step on the field and you're like, oh man, I should have worked out harder, prepping for this. Like you don't want to go through that on a college campus when you're trying to earn a spot. Now I'm just gonna, if anyone has a question, please just pop it in the chat or just unmute yourself and cut me off. I'm fine with that. But on a lot of college campuses, there could be 4 members of the coaching staff. You have the head coach, and then you could have 2 assistant coaches and goalkeeper specific coach as well. And everyone plays a role in making decisions in terms of the starting 11 and even running different sessions for practices. And understanding those coaches is really important, and you can do some background work now. So I was just wondering, Shep and Chico, if you can share a little bit about learning about their coaches before they get on campus and how to understand kind of what it's like to be a head coach and what it's like to be an assistant coach and the roles that they play.
Yeah, I mean, for me in college, I went through a coaching change. The coach that recruited me left after my freshman fall, and went to Wisconsin. So a school in our conference, which was really hard. Having the coach that I went there for just leaving, and not only leaving, but I was going to see her every year playing against them. So that was really tough. But I think for me, the roles that my coaches played, my head coach was the one who really, I didn't think she really liked me very much until my senior year. Like we butted heads a little bit. So I really gravitated more towards my assistant coach, who took a lot of time to do video with me and do a lot more one-on-one stuff with me. And she was really in like the day-to-day of making me a better player. My head coach was more like the big picture stuff of what she wanted me to get better at and standards that she was holding everyone to. Whereas the assistant coaches, you can build that relationship. But I do think it is really important to have honest and open conversations with coaches. Like I said, my new head coach, she's the coach that's there now, Erica Walsh, we didn't get along my sophomore and junior year really. And we've talked about it. And then one day, it was the spring of my junior year, we texted each other. We're like, we need to sit down and talk this out. When we sat down and had lunch and basically just said, this is what I don't like. She told me what she didn't like. And then we put it all out on the table. And then I had a blast my senior year, and I loved playing for her. And now we have an awesome relationship, and she's someone I call about the national team all the time and US soccer and everything like that. And if you told me that my sophomore year, I never, ever would have believed that you had that. Like, I think it's really important to understand, especially now from a coach's perspective, it's really important for you to understand how much your coaches think about you and how much your coaches want you to be happy. There's no coach in this country that says, oh, that girl sat on the bench, that's awesome, like, good for her. They want you to play, and they want it tears them apart when you can't play or you're not performing to the standard, or they have to hold you accountable to something. And like, they're racking their brain all the time about how to build a relationship with you, or how to push you and make you better. And it's not just, they're people too, and they have emotions and they have emotional connections and things like that. So I think the biggest thing for me, for coaches, is get to know your coaches, and take the steps to say hello to them and ask them how they're doing, and build those, really take the time to build the relationship, because it's sometimes they're going to say stuff you don't like, but sometimes they're going to be there for you when you need them the most. And those, they want you there, and they want the best of you. So just kind of always keep that in mind as you're going through it, and not going through the easiest times always.
Yeah, I love that you said, build a relationship with the coaching staff. I think that is just tremendous. And because they do want that. They do want to get to know you. And that's the fun part, is, the things that you remember. Yeah, you're going to win. You're going to remember championships and games won, but you're going to remember the fun stuff off the field, and the jokes that you have, and things like that. So yeah, that's a really good point. And there is a difference between head coaches and assistant coaches, and the relationships that you build with those folks as well. Chico, did you want to add anything to your experience in dealing with, and you both played for such recognizable figures in women's soccer. And then you also have, the assistant coaches as well. So just navigating that, Chico, if you can kind of share what it's like.
Yeah, I think the head coach, for my experience, at BU, she ran the sessions most of the time. Like, there was really no, I can probably count on one hand in my 4 years when one of the assistant coaches would run the full session. So that was just the dynamic. But I did have, if I had a question and I wanted to know something specific about soccer and my playing time or whatever, that was a meeting I would go and sit down with her, my head coach. But some of the side conversations on the sideline during, a practice session, I might go to the assistant coach and say, hey, what do you think about this? Or how would you do that? And in building there were definitely kind of a different relationship between the head coach and the assistant coaches that I had. But at the same time, they did grow into, I'm still very close with all of them. There definitely were times that, I felt like my head coach was really hard on me and hard on some of my teammates. But I think having that ability to feel comfortable and confident to go into speaking with your head coach, whatever it is, even if it's just to say hi. But those are experiences when you leave college and you might be sitting down with your boss. I remember sweating profusely, being so nervous to do that. But at the same time, it was such a experience that I'll never forget, because when it was time to then go and sit down with my boss when I graduated, it was an easier experience because I was confident that I could. And yes, they're older than me, or yes, they're my boss and whatever. But at the same time, you're building that confidence and being able to look at your boss in the eyes or your coach in the eyes, and a lot of those life skills that are so important to help you become a young woman is so powerful. And at the time, it felt scary, but I'm so glad that I was able to have those experiences, big picture wise, not just for the soccer piece of it.
Yeah, that's a great point. And a lot of, companies love to hire student athletes because of their ability to take feedback and deal with authority, because that's essentially what we're doing when we have to kind of listen to the head coaches, and we're not going to argue, which brings me to my next kind of question in terms of body language after you get, it could be considered criticism, but actually today I changed it when I was talking to the players. The way I'm looking at it is it's feedback. So whenever there is a coach is giving you a hard time, as we say sometimes, take it as feedback, and feedback should be positive. Turn it around and be able to learn from it, because you're going to get into a system now of play that you might be unfamiliar with, or move to a position that you normally did not play. So how do you handle that? What is your body language? If you both can speak to that, the importance of what you are displaying out there on the field.
Oh, I had terrible body language. So I had to have this talk a lot with my coaches. I think I kind of had a come to the light moment when my coaches said to me that like I would get really frustrated with myself and I'd always get upset or I'd hit my hands or whatever. And they would say, we know that you're mad at yourself for not scoring that goal or connecting that pass, but the person who passed you the ball or the person around you probably thinks you're mad at them for a terrible pass. And then your energy is kind of like, if everyone feeds off each other, right? So if I'm playing with the other forwards and my body language is awful, then they're going to feel that too, especially if you want to be impactful and want to be a leader. I think the best leaders are the ones who can kind of take that criticism and then understand that they have to exude it, like fake it till you make it. Like if you don't feel confident, act confident, because then it's going to just start to naturally come for yourself. And I think it's really important that whatever you're displaying is what coaches are reading. So if they see you moping around the field, it could be for something completely different, but a coach isn't going to waste their time letting you mope around the field. They're going to say, hey, why don't you come mope on the bench with me while I put someone who's going to work really hard out there. It's kind of the reality. It's you don't get that second chance, and that might be your only chance to play. And if you're out there moping, and then maybe they just say, okay, fine, we're just going to have you stand over here for a while. And that's just the reality of college sports. It's competitive. Everybody's there for a spot, and everyone wants to play.
Right. And also you make a really good point in terms of when you're on the field, you have to make the most of it, because when you're off the field, someone else is showing their stuff. And so you want to keep your spot as long as you can. But how about, talking a little bit more about your role on the team? So maybe as a freshman, you don't get a lot of playing time, but you've coming off a great high school season or a great club season where you're the star. So how do you kind of wrap your head around that, if you can give some strategies and advice to our players?
Yeah, so I've experience from it, like I said, with my rookie year playing pro, that I thought I was awesome. I thought I was going to walk on the field and I was going to be scoring goals, and it was just going to be a nice step up into what I was supposed to do next. And I got a really solid reality check my rookie year. And I think the hardest thing I had to learn ever in soccer, and I guess in life too, is that the feeling of a reward can't come from the outside, right? Like I can't play soccer because I want my coach to tell me good job. And I think I felt that a little bit too my senior year in college, as I got to a point where, I worked really hard. So I was satisfied with my performance. I wasn't doing it because I wanted a coach to tell me good job. Like I knew I was confident with what I did. And once you find that kind of fountain of internal confidence, it just creates for you. And it just, good stuff happens when you're playing confident. And it's hard because it's one of those things that you don't know it till you know it. But if you can find that fountain that you're just internally, you did everything you possibly could. And I think that comes from being fit. It comes from controlling everything that you can control. It comes from taking care of your business at practice and making sure everything you do is like on point. Like I connected my passes, I scored my goals. Like I remember when I got released from Sky Blue, the practice before, I was awesome. Like Carly Lloyd was coming back from an injury. We were playing 5v5 and she was on my team, and she told me I did such a good job that day. And I remember my last shot, it was like this, I ended the game with this ping upper 90. And then the next day my coach kept calling me, and I was texting my friends. I was like, why do you think he's calling me so much? And they're like, oh, you're probably traveling to the next thing. Little did I know I was getting cut. But I wasn't even like thinking that, because I knew how confident I was and I knew how well I was playing. And I think when you get to that point, the playing time is nice. I totally understand that. But if you focus on what you can control, then everything else just takes care of itself.
It's really great advice. So, Chico, you said you had an injury in college. Is that right? So how did you manage that? And, we talk about this a lot when we're going through the college search, is that you have to select a school for academics. That's why you're there, just in case something happens. So can you speak to a little bit about going through like an injury while your team is playing and doing all the team stuff that you can't get involved with?
Totally. I think even just to go into that point of, I remember when I was looking to where would I go to college, I was all over the map, and my mom was like, you need to like the school for the school, because if something happens and you can't play, I want you to love where you are and what you're studying. And she was so right. Unfortunately, that did happen. I sprained my ankle. I had an ankle injury freshman year. Sophomore year, I got mono, but I had played too many games, so I couldn't redshirt. Junior year, I sprained my ankle, and then that was the one that made me get surgery, because it was just nothing left. So it's hard because we would train for pretty much 2 hours a day, in season, and that means you're getting there early to get your treatment. So not now, if practice started at 4:30, I have to be in the training room at 3:30 to get my treatment, because you can't get treatment during practice time. So now I'm there even earlier. So it's almost like adding more time on both ends of your day to then manage your schoolwork and your rest and your recovery in that sense. But you still then, you're watching games. So, I would say it was hard to watch, but my coach would have me stay involved. And at the time, there'd be days where I'm like, I don't want to take stats in my head, but I would never say that out loud. But I would be, taking stats that she would get, helping me stay engaged, so that I wasn't just on the sideline chit chatting. That was not really like allowed. It wasn't part of our culture. So maybe I was shagging balls. Maybe I was, helping handing out pennies and whatnot. So I think, yes, it was tough, but there was still the ability, you have your teammates to be able to then kind of lean on when you're having those days where you're kind of bummed that you aren't able to be on the field with them and alongside them. But then, when you recover and you do come back, that feeling of getting back on the field is so exciting. And you almost appreciate it a little bit more when you don't get to be doing it. And I think sometimes it's hard to see in the moment. I mean, college goes by really fast. And I think each year goes by, even faster. So you have, the next thing you know, you're going to be a senior, and, being able to I like to say, be where your feet are, and take each day. And sometimes in the moment of it, we just keep going, and you just keep, you do your practice, you do your homework, and then it's the next day and you have class, and you kind of keep going through that, cycle. But really taking those moments when you can to just take a step back and realize, appreciate the moment, be where your feet are, be in the present moment, and enjoy your experience, because, it does go by really, really fast.
Right. And we keep saying that to the players, but it's hard because right now it hasn't even started for them. So they don't know, but your first season will go by so fast, and then it's your first semester and it's your first year. And Mike, I'm going to ask you to give a little bit of your vision too about, this program in a second. But players, if you have any questions, please be sure to either unmute yourself and ask, or just put it, you can direct message me, and I feel very comfortable asking the questions on your behalf. But one point to make is the athletic training staff is an extension of your coaching staff at college. Those are people that you're definitely going to get to know. Even if you don't have a serious injury, you're going to have some bumps and bruises, and they're going to treat you, and they're going to be part of your conditioning program. And those are people that you'll meet the first day of preseason. And you really need to make sure when they say, if you have any issues, come see us, they mean it. That's what they're there for, to keep you on the field. So I've worked with a lot of athletes who thought they were all set, and they didn't want to go into the athletic training room because they thought playing time would be taken away, or the coach would make decisions off of that. But really, they're a neutral entity, and they're actually really there to support you and make sure you're healthy before you get onto the field, or to help you maintain your abilities to play. So Mike Kursker, he played Division I college ball, and he coached college ball at Endicott College on the same field that I coached at. And he's got a lot of experience in terms of recruitment of athletes, and also building a culture. So Mike, can you share a little bit from a coaching perspective, that culture piece, and really how you get first year players involved with the rest of the team, and what these players could look forward to?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think the exciting thing is that you have worked hard to this point to put yourself in that position, which is super exciting. And so it's a new tier for you in your life. To be able to hear Shep and Chico talk about their experiences it's extremely special. And so I just want to say, our vision for Impact in general was to be able to say, how can we utilize each other's club's resources? And then we talk a little bit about legacy, and we say, okay, I look back and say, for me at Endicott, what was important? What was important for me as a coach, and the players I worked with was the relationships that I built. I was just talking to Dina today that the logo that we have for Impact was put together by a player that played for me at Endicott College that I actually played with when I was a senior and he was a freshman. He now owns his own business out in San Francisco. But it's about being able to build these relationships. So as you step onto the field as freshmen this next year, you need to be able to look around and say, okay, who's here and why are they here? And what can you learn from them? Shep said it so well, which is, as you get older, you gain all this experience and wisdom. What we want to be able to do is share with you now so that you can take these things and really kind of be a step ahead. And so, our hope is that as you go on and you continue your career as a women's soccer player, is there a way in which you can continue to be an ambassador to the game? Even when you're out there, and your focus is playing for your college, but being an ambassador, we can talk a little bit about that, what that might mean from your perspectives, because we're going to want you to come back and we're going to want you to be able to work in your community. We're going to want you to come back and work within your clubs. We've got some former players playing collegiately that are going to come and speak at our 08s. And these are girls that played for our clubs. And so those are things that you've got to be able to do. And so already stepping in next year, think about what your legacy is going to be, right? And how important is it going to be for you then to be able to give back in some way, shape, or form? And that really is just being your best self. So from my perspective, whether you take 5 nuggets away from today, you take 1 away, you're going to be better for it. And that's what you have to do every time you step out on the field this next year is what are you gaining from your training sessions? What are you gaining from your coaches to be better people and better players?
Thanks, Mike. So players, any questions that you have for us? This is really a small Zoom, so feel free. Like one question I had when I was, entering as a freshman, I always wondered the relationships between freshmen and everyone else. Like, are we included? There were only 3 of us, 3 freshmen that were there. And so that was a question that I had because I was like, are we just going to be outsiders? Like, are we going to even know how to go to the dining hall? These are things that really worried me. And then what I found out is that, coaches really do want everyone to, you're basically classless when you step on the soccer field. Like, you're a freshman, people know they're a junior, but when you're out there, you're all on the same team representing the program. So I think you'll find that. And I think a lot of times coaches also have a little bit of like a buddy system to make sure that the freshmen do have like an upperclassman to guide them, especially during preseason, to show them the ropes. So that's something too, if you have another interaction with the team, the coaches, is to ask that question. What is it like to be, on campus during preseason as a freshman? And do you have links to the upperclassmen? Because that was something that always kind of worried me. And then as a coach, I just made sure we did have, I called them psych buddies. So we'd psych each other up and get everyone motivated. But it was a way for me to make sure that there was, everyone had someone looking out for them, like a big sister sort of thing. Players, Hannah, Nora, Kaylee, Janelle, any questions? Chico, did you want to add something to what I was saying?
I was just going to say, I feel like your coach is going to know the team very well. And I think that usually as a freshman coming in, whether you go off campus to do preseason, whether you do it on campus, usually the coach will pair you up with someone that would be a good fit to help you kind of come into this new environment and feel more comfortable. And then similarly, when you think about it, when it's your turn, because as you go through it, it's going to be your turn to do it for that freshman or that sophomore coming, a transfer even coming in. And remembering how you felt is always important to then be like, okay, now I'm going to be the bigger one, the big junior, or big senior now. I want to help them feel welcome, just like that teammate helped me feel welcome when I came onto campus.
Yeah, it's really about team pride, right? And making sure everyone feels comfortable. Because like I said, it doesn't matter really what class you are. We want to really be able to be successful. Emma had a question. What does a general summer packet look like for training?
Yeah, I mean, from what we used to give the players and what I used to get, it varies between coaches and between programs. Some are really specific and give you specific workouts. Some give you general ideas. I think most of the time as coaches, they just want you playing soccer as much as possible. So getting on a summer league team is really important to make sure you're touching a ball before you go. And you know, I think the biggest thing in a summer packet is, yes, you need to do it. You need to make sure you get your times and you stay accountable, but also getting enough rest and recovery is super important. Because I think sometimes you panic and you go the other way and you're doing your whole summer packet plus a summer league team plus going out with a personal trainer plus doing all these workouts. And then by the time you get to preseason, you're an injury waiting to happen, like an overuse injury waiting to happen. And so I think if you have questions, I think that's the biggest thing. Usually they get broken down by days and weeks, and they're made specifically for you, so you're peaking at the right time with lifts and things like that. But I think the biggest advice I can give on packets is make sure you ask questions. If you don't understand something, or if you have another workout, or you have something else going on, don't try and figure it out on your own. Coaches don't expect freshmen to know everything. They expect freshmen to ask questions and want to learn and all that kind of stuff. So just go by the packet, but everyone's going to be a little bit different with lifts and runs and things like that.
Yeah, and Emma, I know you were concerned because you didn't get a summer packet yet. Just know the semester literally ended for most places Friday. So I think the coaches are just kind of finishing up their things as well. So typically it's the end of May. But that's a question you can always ask the coach as well. And that's keeping the lines of communication open. Coach, just wondering if there's a summer packet you're sending out, and then they'll get back to you. And that again, that's a way to stay connected to the coach as well. Great question. Anyone else have a question? Hannah, Kaylee, Janelle, Claudia, any questions? Well,
Dina,
go ahead, Mike.
Yeah. I just want to hit on one of the things that Shep said, which I think was super powerful, and that is, you know, these coaches want to do everything that they possibly can to be getting you on the field, and it is very difficult as a freshman to be able to find yourself coming in off the bench. It's very rare that you do become a starter your freshman year, but just know that your coach has every intention, like Shep said, to be able to try and find time for you, figure out how do I make this player part of our team in a meaningful way. They're constantly thinking about that, and I think that you know, a lot of times that doesn't get said. So Shep, I do really appreciate that point, because as coaches, we're constantly thinking about our players, whereas sometimes the players don't think that. They don't understand that, but that's our job as coaches, is to figure out ways in which they can be beneficial to this squad in some way, shape, or form.
And you know, you do have the opportunity to ask questions of your coaches. They're not untouchables, and we're lucky to have email. I mean, back in the day, I didn't have email, or you're texting your coaches now. I mean, now you have a chance to communicate in a way that's very, you know, casual almost too. So you can email and ask questions, but you're going to get the orientation that's coming up for your institution. So then you get all that academic stuff. So in pieces over the summer, I think all of this will make more sense and kind of calm your nerves a little bit if you do have, you know, any anxiety about, you know, the stepping on a college campus. But you know, you've made your decision. That's the hardest part and the most exciting part. You know where you're going to be, and you know you should stay in touch through social media too, and see what's going on with the program, with the players, and connect through social media with some of the upperclassmen so you can see what they're up to as well. Okay, any final words of advice, Shep and Chico, as they launch their freshman career? How exciting. And you know, thinking back how, gosh, it's awesome to pack those bags, go step on the field. It's something you girls, you ladies will never, ever forget, your first time on that soccer field as a freshman. But if you can give us some parting words of advice, that would be great.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just have fun and appreciate it, right? Just appreciate all the work it took you to get there, but it's create something out of it. Like you're going to have all these resources, you're going to have so much fun. College is the best. You're going to enjoy yourself, and I think enjoy every day of it, because I wish I could go back and go be in college again. I think everybody does. you get to really have no responsibilities, no matter how stressed out you think you are. Like, it's just a test. It's just a soccer game. You get to play soccer with your friends and go to school and just have an awesome time. So I think for me, it's really just enjoy every single moment that you get to do it.
So true. Yes, definitely. Chico.
Yeah, I think the thing that is so awesome about playing a sport in college is that you have an immediate group of friends that are going to help you feel way more comfortable in an environment that can be so new. And so those people might be your best friends for the rest of your lives, and really just knowing that you get to, come to campus early, you get to get used to things, but also you're kind of in this journey together. And it's there could be lots of windy roads in your time, but at the same time, it will be awesome. And like I said, having your friends, some of your best friends, you might find are your teammates, and you're kind of navigating this new thing together and being able to talk about it with each other, and then and then the next thing you know, it'll be over. So enjoy that time that you get to do it. There's even the times that you kind of might get frustrated, because at the end of the day, it's I would love to go back and do it all over again. It was a great experience.
Yeah, 100%. I think anybody who played college ball or just attended college, it really is the greatest time of your life. You do make the best of friends during that time. So I want to thank our guests for joining us tonight. This was a treat. And any of the players, if you didn't ask a question and you have anything, feel free to email me and I can get the answers for you. But Shep and Chico and Mike, thank you so much for imparting your wisdom on this group. This is truly a journey for these young women, and you really need to celebrate your success. We're very proud of you, and we definitely want to follow you and then your journey as you start your new chapter as student athlete. So congratulations to you. And thank you everyone for joining tonight. Really appreciate it.